Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Longing. Day like 60 something, who knows? And I've got so many episodes that I haven't edited yet, and I don't know how many are before this, so I can't know what day we're on right now. But I'm on my way back to our little home so that I can put up some of the things that we found in the wonderful halls of eternity. And I'll talk a little bit about something that I've been thinking about recently, but also in the past year or so. I've been doing some not super useful things, but more for the fun of it, of gardening and experimenting with gardening, and because I really like as a hobby being able to watch a living thing grow and like being able to know like if I get food from it, like this food, I did this, uh, and it's very satisfying to me. So I've been experimenting a bit with growing different things, and I got interested in experimenting with grain and wheat and such. And for the record, I haven't been able to pull off much. I mean, I've been able to grow some, but not to a useful extent in any sense. But through my trying to grow grain, it got me thinking about plants and specifically grain in this sense of how I took a look at my lawn, and at the time it was my parents' lawn, and it's not like they died. It's I moved, so I'm thinking it's confusing in my head, but I was looking at the lawn outside of the house and thinking about how if you let a lawn grow, eventually the blades of grass they seed and they look like grain. And that's because they're like closely related. Grain and grasses are basically the same thing pretty much. Not exactly, but the grains that we use to eat are all heavily like produced for like and selectively uh what's the word well, they've been grown over a long period of years to be selected for how good of a food crop they are, whereas like lawn grass has been selected to be good for covering an area and looking pretty, right? So when you look at a lawn though, and you let it grow, it'll seed and it'll look like grain, and you can go over that with a mower. You can cut grass as much as you want, and for years and years and years, you can go over that lawn and cut it, and you don't have to reseed it. It's just there, right? No matter at what stage you're cutting the grass, it just comes right back. And then I thought about like wheat, and how with wheat, if you grow wheat, and I just realized how boring this topic sounds. I'm literally talking about grass growing. But it's interesting to me, and nobody's watching this anyway, so this is basically for me. When it comes to wheat, you plant wheat, you let it go to seed, and you take the seed, you harvest it, and that's it. That's just it. And I was thinking, well, why is it like that? If all the other grains, pretty much, that I see in nature, you can cut them and they just come right back. Wouldn't it be fantastic if you had a wheat or any sort of grain, like wheat or rice or corn or anything of those sorts, that you could cut down or harvest, and then the next year it would just grow right back and you didn't have to reseed it? That seems really doable considering that the the family it comes from that it's so closely related to does that already. Uh, so I immediately thought, why isn't anybody on this? And the answer is there is lots of people on this. It's called when you have something that can grow over multiple years and be cut back and still come back and grow. That's called a perennial, and that basically just means the word perennial just means that it lasts longer than a year, as far as I understand it. So there are lots of people trying to develop perennial wheat and perennial rice and all sorts of things like that. And I was really interested in that. And over some time and a little bit of research, I tried to find, like, can I buy a perennial grain and start growing it? And the only one where I could find a perennial grain that is at a point in development that you could actually purchase any at all for yourself was something called Kernza, which is it's a perennial grain that can grow multiple years in a row without needing to be replanted. And yeah, it's in development stages. And I was able to buy like a very small amount of it. And I got some this fall at some point a couple months ago. But I'm not ready to plant it at any point. And I think you'd probably plant it in the spring anyway. So there's lots of benefits to perennials. Like they have deeper roots, which is really good for soil and good for groundwater and stuff like that. You don't have to replant them. They take more carbon out of the air, and there's all sorts of great stuff about it. So I got some, and I also got some of the flour of the stuff in the mail to try that out. And so far, a little review of that is like from the little I've tested with it, it's like it's a whole wheat sort of thing. Not a whole wheat, it's whole Kernza grain, but not whole, but like whole milled. I don't know if you know what I mean. Like when I'm it's not. I have a bag that has the grains on one hand, and then I have a bag that has the milled stuff, but it's not sifted into a white milled substance. So I've got the two bags. And so I tried I'm waiting to open the seed until I actually want to plant it. As for the actual flour, did the game freeze? No, it's good. As for the actual flour, I tried some of that, and it seems like taste-wise exceptionally normal, like maybe a little bit nicer than regular whole wheat, but that's probably just because my regular whole wheat that I had sitting on the shelf is old, and whole wheat goes rancid if you leave it too long. So it's probably just that, but it smelled a lot nicer. It smelled very nice. So a little review there of how it actually was, but that I just basically was hoping that it wasn't horrible. As long as it's not horrible, I'm still very interested in doing it, and it certainly was not horrible. It was very unrefined, though. It was like the kind where, like, I guess they're trying to appeal to that, like, ooh, we're so natural crowd, because, like, they left big chunks in, but whatever. Not really my thing, but in the end, it didn't end up making the whole thing like super coarse or horrible or anything. I tried mixing it into breads and pancakes and stuff, because you shouldn't use whole wheat as a main ingredient in most bread products, because that messes up. There's a bunch of good reasons that you don't do that. I'm not going to get into them. So I tried that, and I don't know why I got to this point, but I was reading the bag on the grain or one of these things, and I got to a point where it said on the bag that Kernza is not GMO. And if you don't know what GMO means, it means genetically modified. And I immediately thought, what? Why the hell isn't it? This is exactly what genetically modified products are for. This is what we should be doing. Why are you doing it the hard way? This is ridiculous. And as far as I can tell, the reason they're not doing it the hard way is purely marketing. Which I guess I shouldn't be surprised that it would be marketing. Because literally the whole GMO debate is pretty much just marketing like bullshit to try and sell natural products to people. And it's like, it's a bunch of just complete BS as far as I can tell. There are excessively few reasons to have any fear of GMO products. Uh, it's it's very frustrating to me to see whenever somebody uses the buzzword natural, or like people's fear of anything technology, and then like tries to market things based off of that. It's such bullshit. Like some of the things, like I don't get what people are afraid of, that like scientists are going to put some chemicals in their food or something genetically. Like if they were going to do that, it would be easier to just like inject your tomatoes with something when they're on their supply line to you. Like that doesn't make any sense at all. And this idea that there's something inherently wrong with using our best tools to genetically modify things, when in reality everything we eat has been genetically modified, just not with our current science. They just used natural select, well, not natural selection. They used uh, people's selection of choosing what they wanted. So people have been fucking around with the genes of plants since the ancient times, and like the whole thing of like bananas and corn and things like that. The stuff you see today is an abomination compared to how it originally naturally was, where it was, those things were pretty much nothing near the same as they are today. For good reason. We chose things that the traits that make the food more desirable, tastier, better for you, and like more of it, and we just select the plants that do that and then replant seeds from the plants that did that. And all GMO is doing that, but easier and quicker with technology and much more controllable. And as far as as trying to look online as for why anybody in this day and age still does not like GMO, besides people who just are like, oh, it's unnatural, which natural doesn't mean anything. It's such a weird, like, magic word that people use. But so completely ignoring those people because it's pointless to even talk about them. Are there any good reasons to worry about GMOs? And basically, no. But I'll get at what that kind of person might argue. They have like some arguments, such as I guess when you create a GMO product, a GMO plant or animal or anything, somehow I guess you can patent it and then you own that life form forever. Like, that's weird. But that doesn't have anything to do with the process of GMO. That's a law thing about like patent laws. So like if you're worried about that, then argue about patent laws, not the process of GMO. Uh, I've heard people say it like reduces biodiversity, but like not inherently. The only reason it would reduce biodiversity is because people then make choices around that, when like in reality this GMO product could be used to increase biodiversity. It's just that people don't right now because of capitalism, and it's not inherently useful to people to do that right now. Uh, it it's like it might be a bit of a cliche to say that in this a cliche to say this argument in this sphere of this idea space, but really it does seem like all arguments against GMOs are not actually arguments against GMOs. They're complicated arguments based around our existing economic structure of capitalism and our society, uh, when in reality, like GMOs are just a tool, and an exceptionally good tool at that could solve so many problems. But some people are afraid of them because of systems in our current society, and other people are afraid of them for stupid reasons like buzzwords and trying to be natural when natural doesn't mean fucking anything. Uh, yeah, so that's my little spiel and my annoyance. That pisses me off a lot whenever whenever anything gets held back by people trying to be like, no, we need to do it natural. Like, that's so fucking dumb. It's the whole gluten craze, too, is in a similar sense. There's people who are like, gluten's an evil chemical. Like, no, it's not. It's. It's so stupid. If anything is natural, gluten is one of those things. But I'd argue that nothing is natural because, like, the meaning, it's either nothing is natural or everything is natural. Because it's such a weird word, natural. It seems to imply that something about humans and things that humans make is unnatural, when in reality humans are part of the natural world, right? So it's so weird, and people using the word chemicals as a buzzword, as if something is bad about chemicals inherently, when chemicals are how we as life live. We are chemicals. It's so dumb. I don't. Yeah. Ugh. Well, on a brighter note, we made it home. Our bookshelf is a little livelier. Our rugs are a little nicer. Our new curtain, our new horse head palata. I'm pretty sure that's the name. I'm not gonna look it up. And our new crystal, our new beautiful crystal. It's all here. Gang's all here. Well, thanks for listening to me whine and complain about grass. And not the cool kind of grass either. The regular, grow in your lawn, boring grass. And sticking around if anyone actually did. So I guess I'll see you guys in the next episode. Later.